started a home-based service business and you have found that running a business is harder than it looks and more overwhelming than you ever thought it would be. This podcast is the best of the best information that I've learned to help grow and sustain my business. Listen, subscribe, and follow along. We can avoid the overwhelm and start creating a business we love to run. Well, happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to the DAC podcast. I am so happy that you're here. If you are new and if you're returning, welcome back. Just a few things that I want to talk about today before we get straight into the interview with Maghon Taylor that I think you guys are going to absolutely love. Number one, I am starting to plan the technology series of the podcast. So if you are new, then this podcast is broken into 10 different seasons. Right now we're on season 1, which is marketing, and the next season is going to be technology. And all of the seasons coincide with my MBA that I got. So as I'm looking through the technology notes that I took from my class and bringing out those things that I think are the most helpful for my business, I want to know what you guys want to hear about. We're going to be talking about social media in this series and just about like hardware and things with your computer and what you should be buying and equipment and things like that. But what else do you guys want to hear about? I would love to hear from you as I start to plan out all the content for the next few months. So if you have an opinion on this, if there is a question that you have or someone that you would like to see on the podcast, I would love it if you would send me a message. And the best way to do that is just is just through Instagram, actually. So you can find me on Instagram at DAC_balance_LLC. And you'll see it on there, and you can send me a DM right there and give me some feedback on what you would like to see from the podcast and a guest that you would like to see, or maybe tag them and I can go and stalk their page a little bit and see if they would be a good fit. So I would love that if you guys would give me that feedback. And number 2, if you guys would subscribe to the podcast, it means so much. I didn't realize how much it meant for a podcaster to have people to subscribe and for them to rate the podcast, and even better to leave a review of the podcast, because the way that the algorithm works on iTunes, the more that a show has ratings and subscriptions and things like that, the higher it ranks. So it's a huge deal. That is the best way that you can thank me if you're enjoying this podcast, is to subscribe and then to rate the podcast and to leave a review. I would so much appreciate that. Well, today's episode, I am so excited to bring you guys. I think this is going to be one of my all-time favorite episodes. It's with Maghon Taylor from All She Wrote Notes. And she has a calligraphy business. So she goes and she teaches people how to do happy hand lettering, which is what she calls it, and calligraphy, and it looks really fancy. And it's just a fun way to bring this into your everyday life of what you can do, especially if you're like me and you are trying to be more intentional, even about writing thank you notes. I think that what she teaches is just so fun, and it brings just a great element of fun to your everyday. I can't say fun enough because that's what her whole brand is. It looks like a lot of fun. But she is also a really smart businesswoman. She has done brand collaborations with all kinds of brands where she's from, and national brands and everything. So we are going to deep dive into that today. If you are interested in working with other brands, or if you are interested in just how you can do that, I think it's going to be really, really valuable to hear about. So without further ado, here is my interview with Maghon Taylor. Hi, Maghon, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Okay. So I would love to first hear how you got started with All She Wrote Notes, how long you've been doing this, and what you love most about working from home.
Sure. I've been in business for 5 years. I am a mom and I'm a wife, and it's really, really cool being able to work from home. I have been doing All She Wrote Notes since 2013. For the first 2 years, it was on the side of my 9-to-5 regular job. So I would work all day actually in event planning, and then I would come home at night and write things and pack orders and ship them out. And I really loved it. I didn't know any different. So my husband works third shift, and at the time he was just my boyfriend. So I had all the time in the world to be able to work on both. Yeah. And it wasn't until after we got married that I realized I really needed to make a shift. And I didn't need to be working 24/7 on one or the other. Yeah. And so I ended up leaving my 9-to-5 job to pursue All She Wrote Notes full time. And I got into this kind of accidentally. I've always been an artist and a doodler and a drawer, but it really wasn't until I took a calligraphy class that I was hoping to love. And it turned out that I was not very good. I was very disappointed. I was comparing myself to everyone else and thought that I wasn't good enough. And it wasn't until a girlfriend said, Megan, I've never seen calligraphy look so fun. And it just opened up doors for me because I was like, I can make this my own. It doesn't have to look like everyone else's. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be elegant. It can be fun. It can be more casual. And so I started sharing photos of my work on Instagram. When I started, I had 1 follower, which was me on my other account.
I was right there. Yep. I remember that.
It's the best. Like you're talking to nobody, but it was really good. And I just kept showing up, and I had very, very little expectations. I would have loved it if this were just a hobby, like just something to fill my time there when I was home alone at night. But it continued to grow, and I am now, I mean, I never could have imagined that it would be what it is now. So I have a full product line that I sell online, and then I teach classes and workshops in person. So I travel all across North Carolina and the South, teaching hand lettering and teaching calligraphy to other women just like us who just need a little creative break. And I have an online course as well.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. And because when I think of calligraphy, I remember one year for Christmas, I got this calligraphy pen set with like the angled brush and then all the instructions on how to make it look like it was this like Gothic 1600s version of calligraphy. And it was like really hard and it was not fun at all. But I saw yours and I thought that it does look fun. It looks fun to create and to draw and everything. So I'm really excited that you found that because it's a lot of fun for the rest of us too.
Thank you. It's fun to do. It really is. It's a lost art, and it's really cool to be part of bringing it back.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a lot of fun. So whenever you are doing the classes, can you just tell me a little bit about that? Because they look like a lot of fun. But what do you guys do in the classes? How do you set them up? Like, how'd you get the idea for that?
I've been teaching classes since about 6 months into business. I'm the kind of girl who just says yes, and then I figure it out as I go along. And I had a store. It was actually like a membership club, like a restaurant that had memberships, and they reached out to me and they were like, we think our members would love learning from you. Like, would you be willing to teach a class? And I was like, sure. And then I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Like, how do I teach? And I practiced a lot. I would like present to like my, pillows in my house, like practicing before I went and taught, timing myself and everything. And then that first class, while I was there, one of the attendees said, hey, I think this will be really fun for my girlfriends. Like, could you come to my house and do the same thing? And so before I left my first one, I had already booked my second one.
Wow.
And then I just kept sharing about them online, sharing about them on Instagram. And what's so cool is like when people come to that experience, they're so fired up, they're so excited, they've had fun, and then they're sharing about that and tagging me as well. So every single time I teach, I pick up followers, like I pick up new customers. And I teach weekly in person, so usually every Thursday night, and that just so happens to be the night that I have childcare. So my parents come and watch my son and put him to bed for me so that I can go out and about. And the class for hand lettering is usually 90 minutes, and I'm teaching. I say that no experience is required because I want somebody who is maybe 10 years old who's like never done this, never picked up a pen before, but then also her mom and her grandma to also feel welcome and encouraged to come. And so the class spans like all these different ages, like all different walks of life. It's ladies who've had this on their bucket list that they've always wanted to learn, but then also young people who may just be engaged or wanting to get married and wanting to do it for their wedding. And so it's really special teaching people like literally from the ground up, like how to hold this pen, what it's called, how to put this together, like how you sit, how you hold, like it's very, very basic for both the hand lettering and calligraphy. Hand lettering, I lovingly refer to as calligraphy. So like fake calligraphy with a marker. It's a little bit easier of a learning curve since you don't have to learn how to hold the pen, but it's a little bit more technical when it comes to the actual skill.
Very cool.
It's fun. They're encouraging. My goal is obviously to teach them how to do this skill, but I want to just encourage them and lift them up while they're there. I think we as women, we're so busy. We're run so ragged, like here and there for everybody but us. And for these women to have given themselves a night out, I just want them to feel loved and feel pampered and just positive, like when they leave that they're going to go into that next day having a really good day.
Well, it definitely looks like from all the pictures that people post and that you put on there that it's like the most fun thing ever. And I'm like, I wish I lived closer because I would so go, but I'm a little far. Maybe one day when we're up in North
Yes.
Carolina.
Oh my gosh. I
We'll
would
go there.
love to have you. But that's exactly why I created the online class too. Like I
Yeah.
love to travel and I do go like a few states over from time to time to teach. But with having a baby at home and everything now, it's just
Mhm.
harder to get out. And so I had a videographer come and film both an in-person class plus me like doing the lessons here in front of the camera. And I tell
Oh.
all the same jokes. I pour everything in that I do in the in-person classes. And so far we've gotten a really great response. So I'm glad to be able to offer that to people that are further away now.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I have to check that one out.
Yeah.
In a little bit. Okay. So today I really want to talk about brand alliances because I know that you've worked with some big national brands, some local brands. And so just first, what was just the very first brand that you had an alliance with? And what was the project? How did they approach you? How did that kind of pan out? The
Sure.
first time?
This is kind of a cool question. I feel like I started big and then I got smaller and then kind of up and down throughout. But the very first one that I can remember is actually West Elm. And
Wow.
they reached out to me. They had seen my work on Instagram. It's funny because it was in the fall. Like I was doing all these pumpkins and
Yeah.
that's what we're recording this in October. That's what I'm pushing and selling right now.
Mhm.
Being able to hand letter on a pumpkin. And so West Elm saw that I was doing this online and they reached out my local store and said, Megan, how would you feel about coming and teaching a class in our store? And so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I did it and I ended up doing it 2 or 3 times like in those 2 years. It was just awesome. It was really cool to go and do that with a national brand and just align yourselves with them. And then
Mhm.
I've been able to have more opportunities with them throughout the years doing gift tags at Christmas and
Mhm.
they do like a tablescape class and I've been able to provide place cards and things like that for
Mhm.
them. But they are such a cool brand because they love small business. Like they love like highlighting makers, doing pop-ups with local people. And then through them, I was also able to partner with Anthropology. They did like a pop-up market and I was able to go and do that at their local stores. And so a lot of these national brands, they have like the local stores have a lot of control versus like who they want to have in, who they want to work with. It's not like I had to go and talk to like the CEO of West Elm to be able to work with them.
Yeah.
I was able to talk with that individual store and that store manager and be able to get in. And then what was so cool is after working with them, a lot of times the larger, like the home base of West Elm would share my work and share the photos and say, hey, in Durham, North Carolina today, this is what was happening in our store. And now that you have stories on Instagram, that's so much more common. I
Mhm.
remember the first time I was featured on Pottery Barn Kids, I was like ecstatic. Like I could not, like I was dead, like I could not even get over it. And it was just a photo that my local store had shared.
Mhm.
And then the big account picked it up and shared it as
Wow.
well. And so it's just really neat to get to know your local people like in the doors, and then
Mhm.
they're going to help you connect to the larger brands. I've worked with Kendra Scott, Neiman Marcus, West Elm, Pottery Barn, Anthropology, like just a lot of different ones. And it's funny as I'm telling you these, I'm picturing like my local mall and like how they're like lined up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's like truly how it works. And so just not thinking that you have to go all the way to the moon. Like you can just go right there and make that personal connection in town, and then they can help you connect on a larger scale.
Wow. So it really is just being out, sharing what you did on Instagram from what it sounds like, making sure that you're putting content out there and sharing what you're doing. And then that's really how you got noticed by the first brand was through Instagram and through
Yes.
just doing what you do.
I would tell you too, like a good advice with social media sharing is if you will actually go and tag the brands, like
Mhm.
in your post, like using your hashtags, like if it's relevant. So like, for
Mhm.
example, when Pottery Barn worked with me, I was sharing our nursery furniture that just so happens to be from there. But part of the stuff that was in the photo was also my work and like my things that I sell. But I
Oh.
tagged them in the photo and in the caption, they have a particular hashtag that they want you to use, which is like hashtag my PBK or whatever it is. Like they all share it. And I used all those things. So it's almost like I intentionally played by their rules that were like, okay, you want to see this, this, and this. And then it's like a formula that they'll take it and they'll use it and share it. And so if I hadn't used those hashtags, if I hadn't shared those things, like on my original post, I don't think that they would have ever found me.
Okay. So you kind of were you trying to get in with them? Was that kind of a goal, or were you just trying to share because that's what you're using and that's what you
not the
have in your
first time.
house?
When I got found by West Elm, that was a fluke. Like, I mean, that was amazing. Like, I was super excited and grateful.
Yeah.
But I do shop at West Elm, and I had shared some of their stuff before on my account just because people ask where it's from, and I do that as a courtesy to my followers. But once they picked up on it, I asked them, like, how did you find me? How did you know? And so they were so quick and easy to tell me. And so then from there on out, I was very intentional and like purposeful about who I was tagging. I have the chair I'm sitting in right now is Pottery Barn Kids. Every single time I post it, I tag them in the chair, and they'll end up sharing a photo. And it's not that you really pick up a ton of followers. Don't expect like a windfall to wake up overnight, like, because they shared your chair. I mean, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work that way, but it just helps them know who you are. And then when you go to reach out, about something more serious, or you want to do a pop-up, or you want to pitch them, then they already recognize you and then they know you. I think that's so hard if you're trying to pitch to businesses, whether they're local or national, that you are not currently a customer of. And I think it just comes off as a little bit disingenuous. Like, I love to work with somebody like Kendra Scott, but I wear their jewelry. I love their jewelry. I shop at their store. So it's like so easy for me to do that rather than me just to cold call somebody and say, hey, I think my people might like you.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just be a customer of theirs before you're wanting, like, kind of like scratch their back if you want them to turn around and scratch yours.
Yes, exactly. And definitely the power of social media as well, and what you're sharing and keeping up with that. And I can definitely see how all of those things do play into your marketing and your brand alliances and everything like that. That's definitely really important. I'm glad you mentioned that. So whenever you had that first alliance with West Elm, you did that, I guess you did class there. So did you get any legal help when you were doing that, or did you wing it? Did you get advice from anybody?
So I'd been teaching classes for quite some time, like before that happened. And so I treated that class at West Elm just like I would any of my other classes. So I sold tickets on my website. It just was the location was there. And so I have like a client agreement that the stores sign, and it's not even like a lawyer has looked at it, but there's no money on the line. So it's not even really like a contract. It's just that, like, here's what I will provide, here's what you provide, here's the date I'll be there, what time I'll be there, that kind of thing. And so I sent them that, but that's the same thing I send to all the local coffee shops and boutiques and everybody that I work with. I've also done a few free things with them. Like, after we did the pumpkins, which I was actually paid for, we did like a gift tag thing at Christmas time. And it was just a verbal agreement that, like, hey, here's the date. Will you come and do this? Will you advertise it? We'll advertise it, that kind of thing. So it wasn't super formal in contract wise or like paperwork wise, but I have found that some of the larger corporations, if it's them pitching you, like, for example, Anthropologie did a local vendor pop-up kind of situation. It was like an event. They came to me and invited me. And so with that invitation came, like, here's an agreement for me to sign, like those kinds of things. I've never been the one to have to pull that together or send it to a brand. With Neiman Marcus, they had me letter a product that they've reprinted and had produced. So I signed something with them saying that they can have that artwork. Like, I created that for them to reproduce. So usually I'm just a little party of one. Like, I'm like a little one person. Yep. And they have these big corporations and these big lawyers and red tape and those kinds of things sometimes. And so it's easier for them to kind of be the one heading that up if there is something that needs to be signed, rather than me kind of like making that up as I go. Gotcha. But I don't feel that I've been taken advantage of or anything like that, like from any of those companies. You just need to be careful that you're reading and paying attention to what it is that they send, and then having like anyone else look over it. I do a lot of stuff with local businesses. So independently owned, like small coffee shops, small boutiques, like even like a Swoozies, which has 10 retail stores, but it's family owned. So it's like one mom and her daughter that own all those stores. And so with them, I don't sign anything. Like I don't, it just isn't that way. It's just very much like a handshake sort of situation. Like I trust you, you trust me. We've done this together before. Like, let's keep doing this. But again, it's not really money exchanging hands because I'm selling my tickets on my website, just like I always do, so that people are actually purchasing directly from me. It's just that when they come to the class, it's at that venue or at that location.
Gotcha.
And so, that's not really a big concern for me. The only time it has been is if I'm doing something that is actually going to exchange artwork or exchange money back and forth. I've done a few sponsored posts and sponsored Instagram content for Hallmark and for Walgreens and companies like that. And they work with like an agency. So they're sending me like somebody that like their job is to get people to share about them. So that's totally different than like the local manager, like in person kind of stuff, which is really what I prefer.
Absolutely. So we've talked about a lot of these big national companies, but let's talk a little bit about the local ones that are just in your community that you're doing classes with, that you're approaching. Have you found that you approach them because you think they have a great space? Are they asking you to come in? How do you make that alliance with them? Because I know that a lot of my listeners are probably going to think that they can think of many stores in their community that they can go to right now and see if they want to do something. So how would you approach that? And then what would be some tips for that, I guess?
I would say be a customer, like be a shopper. Go in there and visit their store. Go in there and shop with them and integrate, like engage with them online. Like make sure that you're following their pages, that you like and that you comment, so that when you do make an ask, they know who you are. Like they recognize you as like, oh, you're all she right now. It's like, oh, you've been following me. Like, oh, you come in here all the time. Like, I think you're going to have a much higher success rate if you are already engaged and you're already their customer. For me, the way that it worked at the beginning is that I was pitching stores I shopped at. So I was thinking like, okay, now I'm teaching these classes. Here are my favorite stores. I think it would be so fun for us to do this together. And usually when I came to them, they were like, we've been thinking the same thing. Oh my goodness. Like, because they knew who I was, they followed me, I followed them. We had like a really good relationship online and in person. But then once I started doing that, and once the wheels started turning and I started sharing it online and people were seeing it happen, now brands are coming to me and stores are coming to me and saying, Megan, we would love to have you. Like, I don't know them. I've never met them, but they know that my client is also their client and they know that I can bring people into their store. And so it's just a win-win, like for both. Like I need a space and they need some people. And so we just combine together and make magic happen. And so it's been really cool. I still have all those relationships that I originally had, but then there's been a lot more that have come along since then that I wouldn't have necessarily met otherwise, but their owners or somebody recommended them to me. A lot of times followers will reach out and they say, hey, I live in Birmingham. Like, how can I get you to come here? And I tell them to introduce me to their favorite store. Like, where do you shop? Can you introduce me to their manager or to their account on Instagram? Or can you tell them to follow me or like tell them to reach out? Because it actually, once you get those initial events down and those initial relationships built, a lot of the other ones will follow. Like they just notice and they see that, and it really makes it a lot easier. And I love now being at this stage in my business where I don't have to pitch a lot. Like I don't feel like I'm inviting myself over to your house. Like they're
knocking on the door every day.
Which is really cool. And like I have found later this far into it that if I have tried to pitch cold that someone doesn't know me, it isn't always the best fit. It's just kind of like messy with like money, or they're like they just don't quite understand what it is that I'm trying to do. And that's another reason. So like I started doing in people's homes, like that was like because people were asking, but I don't really do those anymore because it's really confusing. Like if you're saying, hey, I'm hosting a party, come over, people automatically think that I'm going to be selling them something. That they're going to have to buy something at the end of the night. And it just isn't that way, which is so cool. When you go to a store, they totally have the option. You're in a store. You know that all this stuff is for sale if you want it, but if you don't want it, you don't have to buy. And so a lot of times the venues will have their best sales night of the month because they've offered maybe like a 10% off coupon if you're here. And then I'm encouraging all of them to follow the stores and to tag the stores like in all of their social media posts as well. So it just kind of comes full circle, being able to give back to the people who are having us out. And I mean, it's been really successful so far. I mean, I've taught almost 5,000 students and I mean, hundreds, I don't even know how many, like hundreds of classes.
Wow.
I used to teach several times a week before I had a baby. And now it's like, okay.
Once a week.
Yeah, one is plenty. But it's awesome. I really think that's how my business has been able to grow, by like making those friendships and those brand alliances, like you called them, with the local businesses. Like I know that I have gained more traction locally than I have nationally.
Absolutely. So, for the classes, that's your main source of revenue for your business then, is those weekly classes, teaching what you do. Do you teach the same exact class every time? Do you have kind of a rotation of classes that you teach? I think you said you did the happy hand lettering and the calligraphy, the two different ones. So do you just have the same outline for those and mix it up with like pumpkins or Christmas stuff or things like that? Or have you been able to kind of build that in? Because I think at least for me, if I'm thinking about doing this, I think I have to have 30 different options for them to choose from, and I have to have everything worked out. Or has it been just simple for you? How has that kind of played out for internally? Because you're only one person, and most of us are only don't have a huge team to do all this.
Yes, luckily the content has been the easiest part. So for the first year and a half, I only taught calligraphy classes, and I taught once a week, every week. And so you're not trying to sell to the same people because they've already taken it. You're hoping that they will tell their friends, and then the next time you teach, their friends will come. And so having it like the same show, I think of it like a concert. Like if they're on tour for a whole year, they're singing the same songs, like they're showing you the same thing like every night. But then next year, they might come out with different songs. They might come out with different things. And they're going to do that one all year for the same year. And so that's what I've done. Like I had the calligraphy first, and then I added on hand lettering, the happy hand lettering class. And that class, they're different, completely different classes. So if someone took the calligraphy, they might say, hey, I had so much fun at that, I would love to come take the hand lettering, and vice versa. So those are my two like cornerstone classes. But then I've also added in seasonal classes. Like we're doing the pumpkins right now. We've done ornaments. We've done envelope addressing. But to be completely candid, the seasonal classes do not do nearly as well as the like staple classes. And I think it's because people, like, they get it in their head, like, I want to take this class, like, I want to go to this concert. And then, like, if that's not the one that comes around, they're like waiting on that one. They've been like saving their money. And so the seasonal classes, people are like, what's pumpkin lettering? Like, I just want to learn hand lettering. And so it's just one of those things, like, you think it would be a good idea, and you think people will be all over it. And like once a year, maybe, but it's just that those just do not do as well at all for me. So I think really that content is the easiest part. So if you have a service that you are so good at offering, let that be your offering. So like if you were wanting to show tablescaping, you can just teach that exact same tablescaping class, limit your attendance. So say that we have 12 tickets or we have 24 tickets, like whatever the number is. When it sells out, it's sold out, but then you'll do it again. And then you can keep a wait list going. Like you can keep an email list so that people are notified the next time. And then like you're just teaching the same thing. And then once you feel like you've kind of worn through that one, then come out with something new. You don't need 10 new classes to launch like at the same time. It's so much better if you just get really good, like become an expert, become like the star of the show at that one class you do. And for me, gosh, I've gotten so much better. like that first initial class, like I want to contact those people and be like, can you come back? Like you can just come like on me, because I don't even know what I was
just
doing.
Try to get. Oh my gosh.
And it's like, and my price has increased. Like as I've gotten better and the demand has gotten higher, my ticket price has gone up. And so it's still, to me, it's like still a lot cheaper than other cities, or it's a lot more affordable than some of the things that you see. It's still like a very reasonable price, but it's gone up like as the demand and as my time. Like, I mean, I have to make sure that it's worth it. Now I have to get a babysitter and like all these things. So just financially, it has to make sense. But it's a really good partnership like with the store. And I try to just always under promise and over deliver with what I'm giving the business, because I want to make it as easy for them. Like, I want them to have had the best night, like the most fun night, the good sales, like from customers, like, you know, that they'll want to have us back. And so I, you know, share a ton on Instagram stories, like sharing their store, like I'll do swipe ups. Like, I just try to give, like as much as I can, like for them giving their space, because we, in our agreement right now, we don't exchange money for the space. It's just like a trade, like you're the host. So it's like, if you invited me over to your house, you wouldn't say, okay, give me $100 for cup. You just invite me in and I show up and do that there. And so that has worked really well. And I know then if brands come to me and they say, hey, our rental fee is $500, I know that isn't going to be like, sorry. Like,
yeah, no.
And it's not that they're not worth that, because certainly they are. But when you have other people that are welcoming you with open arms, like you're not going to choose somebody that has a cover charge, right? Like, so it just has been really good. But I just started that initial pitch, and I have logistically, the way that works, I have a PDF document that is designed really cute that answers like every single question I could think of, like coming from a store owner, like when did the tickets go on sale? How much are they? What's your refund policy? You know, what time will you arrive? What do you need? All those things. And so when they inquire about booking a class, I send them that PDF and I say like, hey, like here's all this. Please review this and let me know if you think we're a good fit. And if we are, then let's move forward with booking. And so just kind of having that there, you don't have to type it up every time. Like you can have it done.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
And you don't have to think like, what did I tell these people? Did I tell them this? Did I send them this?
Yeah.
I include a diagram of like what the like layout needs to look like, how the chairs need to be set up, like all that kind of stuff. So, and then I have another email that I send them like the week of the class that's like, hey, just as a reminder, you know, like I'll be here, like don't forget.
Exactly. Like don't close your store early.
Yeah. But that's thankfully, knock on wood, that's never happened. But I have had a cluster where we did not have enough chairs at a venue and they had to like go next door and borrow chairs from a restaurant and bring them over. But it was fine. I mean, we worked it out. But I just always try to just be such a welcome, like, guest. Like, I am a guest in their store. And I just want to feel, you know, just so grateful and just so excited to be there.
So whenever you started this business, did you think you'd be doing classes or do you think you would just be doing the hand lettering? Because I know you do envelopes, right? I've seen that where you hand letter envelopes. Did you think you were going to teach, or I think you said earlier you were just kind of approached and just decided to go with it. But
yeah. I've always loved public speaking. I wanted to be a news anchor when I went to college. Like I wanted to be on camera. Like I wanted to have that kind of a job. And the position that I was in with the events, I was always the MC. So I was on a mic, like I was welcoming people. Like I just was always like a big personality. And so doing the lettering, I did not think about teaching. Like I took a class myself and did not have a good experience. And so when people started coming to me to teach, it was just it was definitely a yes. Like it was a heck yes from me because I knew that I could make it better. Yes. And I knew that they would have fun doing calligraphy where I didn't, and that they would leave feeling encouraged and not less than. And so it was just really important to me the first time I got that opportunity. So I didn't have a ton of expectations. A lot of people create a side gig or they create a side hustle or a business because they need money or they want to leave their full-time job or like all these other reasons. And none of that was even on my agenda. Like I loved my job. I just was doing it as a hobby. Like I was coming home and doing this for fun. And it kind of caught on. And then I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously. Like this is making some money. Like I could do something with this. But I just didn't really put that pressure on me or on the business. But I think if you have a service-based business, like if you are an expert in something, like you have to first of all, you have to call yourself an expert. Like no one else is going to call you that. Like you don't get a certification. Like you don't get a diploma that's like, yes, you're good at this. It's just like by you doing it day in and day out and by you having all this experience, like you are. And so you just need to own that and like own your expert and be able to go and share that to somebody else. And so without knowing all the individual businesses, but like say that you were great at Instagram, like that was your thing, that's what you like to coach people on, and like you like to help with social media, you could go to a local what do they call them, co-working space, or you could go to a local store or shop and say, hey, calling all business owners, like let's do a night about Instagram, and you could give a talk to them, you know, and You can do those for free. You could
Mm-hmm.
charge people. I think if you ever were going to do them complimentary, you need to make sure that there's a pitch at the end or like something
Yes.
at the end that you're hoping will put money in your pocket, because you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be just going out every single night and not
Yes.
making money back. That sounds like fun, but that's not profitable. So you
Yes.
want to make sure that you're paying yourself. But, there's just a lot of things that you have in your toolkit. What's duh to you is like groundbreaking to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And like, to me, like I could do this with my eyes closed, but
Mm-hmm.
going and teaching new people every single night, like from step one, how to put this pin together, like they don't know.
Yes.
And I think just coming from a place that like you only have to be a few steps ahead to turn around and help somebody else that is just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to have 20 years of experience, but don't
Mm-hmm.
pretend that you do. Like you can be so honest and so authentic and say like, hey, I've been doing this for 5 minutes, but I'm so good at this and I'm so passionate and I love it so much. Let me help you start. And I don't think you have to be telling people how to like scale if you haven't scaled. It's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like turning around and helping the people that are right behind you and then pulling them up to your level.
Gotcha. Amazing. I can definitely see that calling yourself an expert is hard, and then bringing those people along, because like you said, because even I think of some things in my own business where I'm like, oh yeah, everyone knows that. And I talk to somebody and they're like, what do you mean you do this? And
Yes.
what do you mean that this is plausible to do and everything? And it's so easy for someone else to do. So I definitely think getting over that mindset of just calling yourself an expert is huge, and then sharing that with other people and being able to just say it out loud that you shared this and that you do this. I think that's really important too. So
I think being able to narrow your focus too, and saying like, I'm so good at hand lettering. Like
mm-hmm.
I'm not good at DIY crafts. Like I'm not good at, like, I'm not trying to like be Pinterest for you,
Yeah.
right? I just have this little bitty one little skill that I can really do a good job of teaching you.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your skill set as a service-based business, like what is one of your services? Like what is something that you're really, really good at that you can like get in there, just that one lesson and teach people? You don't have to teach them like the whole college education. Like you just need the one like guest speaker class, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people get really overwhelmed thinking that they have to like change the world with the one, no, like just one thing, just like simmer it down. And it makes it a lot easier to sell too, just because it's so like clear. It's so clear, like exactly what it is.
And when people think calligraphy now, they think Maghon Taylor. So it's easy to refer people as well and have friends refer you, because if they're doing their wedding invitations and they're like, oh, I need these envelopes to look pretty, you know exactly who to contact on how to learn it or how to do it for you. So that's definitely important for anyone who's in service-based businesses to have that one thing that they do so well, for sure. So my last question, thank you again so much. This has been great. I feel like you've already answered this 1,000 times, but if you could give one piece of advice to a girl who has this dream of working from home, doing something that she loves to do in a service-based business, or maybe she's heard this and thought of a skill that she has that she knows she's really great at, what would be your one piece of advice for her to get started and how she can really dive into this?
I would say don't wait until you have it all together before you start. I think so many times we think we have to have the perfect website or the perfect logo or the perfect business card, like before we get, or a business name. We think we have to have all that before we can even launch. And that's not the case. Like when I started All She Wrote Notes, I did not even have internet at home. Okay. Like I was legit doing everything on my iPhone 4. Wow. And I didn't have a printer. I didn't have a scanner. I didn't have a computer. I couldn't afford it. I mean, that was the reality. I was working at my 9-to-5 job all day long and coming home. I was living paycheck to paycheck. Every dollar was going toward a bill. And I still started a business. I started it on Instagram. I did not even have a website 2.5 months into it. I bought the $10 GoDaddy.com domain and like hacked my way through like putting up just a homepage.
Wow.
And then I was redirecting everything to Etsy, like for a really long time. And it wasn't until, now, like I'm 5 years in, I can buy a website. Like I can afford that. But I did not have any of that when I started. Wow. And I didn't have business cards. Even my logo, I wrote it and I took a picture of it because I didn't know how to scan. So like my first cover, like you guys won't be able to see this online, but I still have it like blown up. Like it's a hot mess. Like it's so ugly. Like it's so embarrassing. But I didn't know that. And I didn't think that. I thought it was great. I thought it was fine. And I did not wait until I had anything perfect before I started. And so just moving forward, like taking little bitty steps forward as much as you possibly can. If this is your big dream a few years from now, what can you do today that will help move you forward in that direction? It may be sending an email and asking somebody else questions. It may be buying that $10 domain name. It may be starting an Instagram account. It may be Googling to make sure nobody else has the name that you want for your business. Like
that is important.
It is. Yeah. Like just take one step forward and just keep going, because I think the worst thing you could do, like if I waited till all this stuff was perfect, I would still be waiting. Like I can pick out to you everything that's wrong if I wanted to, but I just choose not to live that way. Like I have that heart behind everything I do of spreading happiness. Like I want my goal to put a smile on people's face. Like that's what I'm here for. And if I can do that with this hack job business card, then like, let's roll. Like I don't need the moo.com like with the thick pen. Like it took time to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I truly don't think that business card makes other people happier than my old one. You know, like they were probably laughing at the other one. So you know what? That might have made them happier. But I just think like, don't wait until it's perfect before you start. Your business will continue to grow. And then you can use that money and you can use those, you know, the cash that you have to further invest into your business and to keep moving. But that would be what I would say. I think so many people just wait too long, or they come up with all these excuses, and you just got to go, like start taking steps.
Exactly. Or they see someone else who's further along in business and they see where they're at now and start to compare and be like, well, gosh, she's so much further ahead. There's no way I could ever get there. And forgetting that, oh no, at the very beginning, like none of us knew what we were doing. Like
something that really, like, I think about this all the time. Being in business 5 years, like 5 years is such a it's a long time. Like to do the same thing every single day, like over and over and over, day in and day out. And a lot of the businesses that I looked up to when I first started, so like when I jumped on Instagram with me as my only follower, and I was following other businesses, tons of them are not even in business anymore. Wow. And it's just so sad to think that like it is actually very rare that you're able to continue and be grateful that you're still here. But it's the same thing that like when you're comparing these other people, you don't know where they are in their journey. Like you don't know if they're profitable. You don't know if they're doing well. You don't know if they're still passionate about it, or if they've had life happen and kids and they may not even want to do it anymore. Like an Instagram number is not a good indicator of how well they're doing. And I think that's just so important. Like that can be you. Like you can look at that number and you will surpass that number in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years. That number isn't everything. And I think it's just so important to like just keep your head down, like keep yourself focused on you and your business, and then you'll be able to outlast some of these that as if you were like looking up and trying to race and trying to compare to everybody else. Like just stay focused on you. I think of it like keep your eyes on your own paper, like like in school, you know, like keep your head down, keep your head focused, because it's always going to be, you're the only person that can move yourself forward.
Absolutely. So it sounds like it's been a lot of consistency, a lot of hard work, a lot of fun, and a lot of just hearing what people want in the market and trying to do the best you can do for that and being just the very best possible. It sounds like there's no magic formula for it all. It's just a lot of work, consistency, and a lot of fun along the way, for sure.
Yes, I think working hard and being nice to people will get you a really, really long way. Like just not being afraid of hard work. Like I got almost 30,000 Instagram followers because I've posted on Instagram every day for 5 years. Like there wasn't, I didn't wake up one night and get a huge jump. It's just been one by one by one. And same with all the sales, like same with being able to leave your 9 to 5 to go full time. It was one order at a time. It was one customer at a time. And it's just celebrating every single one of those little victories. And just being happy and being excited and being proud. If there ever comes a day where I get the cha-ching sound on my phone and I'm not excited, I know we're done. Like, I know that's all she wrote, okay?
Yes.
I am so grateful every time. I'm so fired up every time. I love seeing their names. Like, I love going in there and looking and figuring out what they bought. Like, it just always needs to be, you need to have that heart of gratitude and just be glad you're here and like be glad that you're moving forward and be thankful for the other people and the other brands and like people who make it possible for you to be there. Like that's why you're here. So don't ever lose sight of that. But I think just working hard and being nice to people is going to go a long way.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is the perfect note to end on. Maghon, thank you again so much for being here, and tell us where we can find you on Instagram. And if you don't follow her already, you're missing out. You have to follow her. So Maghon, tell us where we can find you and where you do your classes and all the good things.
Yes, thank you so much. My Instagram party is happening at All She Wrote Notes, and my website is allshewrotenotes.com. Facebook is All She Wrote Notes. I am that on every single platform because my name is very hard to spell, so it makes it a lot easier just to be All She Wrote Notes. So I would love to connect with you over there, and if you don't live in the South, I'd love for you to join our online class. I think you would really have a good time and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, Maghon, again, thank you so much. And I will hopefully talk to you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.